What's up, everybody? We're live, back again, finally with another GYLS momentum session. The last couple weeks, the last 3 weeks, we tried with Anand. Wasn't really working out. The internet in Dubai, London, and Africa, for some reason, just didn't want to cooperate. But we're back. We're finally here. We got an ultra special guest today. Right now, we have one of Tony's right-hand speakers. He facilitates life and wealth mastery. He really doesn't need any introduction. So we're going to skip the intro because we're running a bit late. And Mike, here you go. Floor is yours, buddy.
Awesome. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know we have people from all over the world that join us for these. So hello and welcome to another momentum session. I love the word momentum because Tony for years has talked about keeping momentum, making sure that we keep momentum up. But what does that really mean, right? What does he mean by keep the momentum going? Well, when Sergio and I started talking about, what do we want to talk about on this call? I said, it's habits that keep your momentum going. Staying in the game, making sure that you can play the full game with endurance and run hard means that you got to have really great habits. So today we're going to talk about what do you do after GYLS? What do you do after you've been in an environment where everybody's energized and pumped and you leave on this high and then you go back to life? What keeps you sustained? Well, it's habits, right? We're going to talk about that. Now, you guys learned from, some of the best. You learned from Felix. You learned from Anand. Kathy Buckley was there. We all learned how to keep a promise. There were all these things that were covered at the event that helped us go home and create change. And I love all those people. And many of them were brought together, of course, by a guy named Tony Robbins, who we've all learned from in one capacity or another. It's the reason why we're all together. But even before Tony, there was some personal development being taught, right? Tony learned from Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn learned from reading things from Earl Nightingale. And he learned from, reading Think and Grow Rich and some of these old classic books that keep our mind focused. But where did Carnegie and Earl Nightingale and all of these early guys in personal development learn from? Well, it goes all the way back to Aristotle. It goes back to early philosophy. And Aristotle had an interesting quote. He said, "We are what we repeatedly do." We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. And if you want to keep momentum, you have to show up as excellent, or better yet, show up outstanding so that you get excellent results in your life. Remember, Tony says that if we show up good, we get poor results. If we show up great, we get good results. But if you want to get great results in life, you show up excellent. If you want excellent results in life, you got to show up as outstanding. So if we want excellence in our life, we have to have outstanding habits. And outstanding habits help us to sustain the momentum that we really want. The same momentum that allowed you to go 15 hours at GYLS for 5 days straight, and run around outside and high-five your buddies and run halfway across campus for lunch and then run back and still be able to go till 10 or 11, 12 o'clock at night if you're with your groups, right? How did you sustain that momentum, that focus, that drive, that engagement? How did you stay in the game for 5 days straight at that event? And then here's the question. Did you sustain that kind of energy, that kind of engagement in life when you got home? Or here we are, 6, 7 months after the event, do you still have that level of engagement, that level of momentum, that level of focus? Imagine what you can do in life if you show up every day like you showed up every day at GYLS. With that energy, that focus, taking advantage of 15 hours a day with full-on engagement. Would life be radically different? Of course. And here's the truth. We can all be in that state at all times. But we've got to make sure that we form good habits. So I'm going to talk to you about some of the best practices and habits that the Robbins trainers have, that the coaches have, that help us stay in the state. And obviously, we're modeling this from the big guy himself. Right? What are the things that Tony's done over the years to maintain that freight train of momentum that he has that just keeps moving and growing and growing and growing. I remember when I was 14 years old, I went to my very first Tony Robbins event. Now, my parents were into personal development. They were also into network marketing, which is how they ended up in personal development. And they brought in a trainer to train their teams. And this trainer started sharing, some of the things that Tony talked about, and I was really excited. I wanted to go to the event, but the event was like $600 at the time. And at 14 years old, I didn't have $600. Hi, some of the coaches are walking by because we're actually at a training. I'll tell you guys about that in a little bit. But I really wanted to go, and they did a raffle. There were 500 people in the room. And out of 500 people, I won the raffle to win a ticket to go to the Tony Robbins event. Now, there was no GYLS. There was no youth programs back then. There was just you show up to a Tony Robbins event. And so in a room of about 400 adults standing on chairs, screaming and yelling and massaging each other, I think I was the only person like under 20. And I learned a lot of things from Tony, but one thing that I learned, it wasn't UPW. It was actually a seminar about influence and about sales. So you can imagine what a 14-year-old does with influence skills. No, it wasn't ladies. It wasn't trying to date. I actually influenced my teachers to let me out of class so I could go read at the library. I would finish my schoolwork early. I would turn in my tests. I would read the chapters ahead of time. I would ask if I could test out in high school, and then I would go to the library and read the stuff I really wanted to read and start learning the stuff I really wanted to learn. And it worked with about half my teachers. The other half made me sit in class and participate and study. But I learned something else in that influence seminar, and it was about influencing ourselves. Tony talked about the law of diminishing intent. And if you ever listen to one of Tony's audio programs called Mastering Influence, he'll talk about the law of diminishing intent. And here's what it means. We call it Lodi. So from here on out, I'm not going to keep saying law of diminishing intent. I'm just going to say Lodi. Lodi is this experience that we all go through where we get excited about something. We want to go and work out, or we want to go to a seminar, or we're at a seminar and we make all these commitments about what we want to do. And we have the best intentions in the world to go home and engage in these things, or to get out there and engage in them. And then life happens. Maybe we get sick, or we get home from the event and we're tired. So we sleep a day or two or three. And then we wake up and we've got to play catch up because we've got schoolwork or homework or a report we have to get in, or we've got some emails we've got to answer. And then 4, 5, 6 days go by and we haven't reopened that notebook to look at what we committed to. We haven't gone back and looked at those goals, or we haven't gotten to the gym yet. We haven't made that phone call to that person that we committed to reaching out to. And after about 10 days, the law of diminishing intent says that if we haven't taken some action towards that commitment, our intentions will diminish, and the likelihood of us following through is slim to none. Here's the truth. We committed to being honest. We committed to keeping our word. We committed to not bullying. We committed to being forthright and calling our own, faults out and learning how to laugh about them and not take them so seriously. Right? We committed to things that we broke through, right? We went through this breakthrough experience with all our leaders and with Felix, and we wrote down who we wanted to be and what our commitments were, what we would no longer tolerate. 7 months later, how are we doing? Have we formed the habits to stay in the game, to stay engaged, to keep those commitments, to not allow our best intentions that we created in a peak state, in a peer group of people who are supportive and empowered and doing well, those things that we committed to as our real selves, not the selves that we shrink back to when we go home, the stuff we committed to in a state where we felt really energized about life, those intentions, how are we doing in following through with them? Right? I want all of you to be able to go to GYLS, to go to Unleash the Power Within, to come learn, finance skills at Wealth Mastery, to come learn how to take care of your health and your mind at Life Mastery, to attend events like, a lot of the coaches are attending this weekend, to get out in your communities and volunteer and learn and make commitments, and then be able to have a consistent habit that allows you to follow through and crush your goals. You look at Sergio and at what he's done in organizing these and making sure that there's regular engagement and that you guys get to interact with people. You look at Juan, who's releasing his book, and Omid, who's out there speaking, and you look at Rachel, who's out conquering. Like, you have peers around you. You have real examples in front of you, people who have some habits of follow through, right? They set an intention and then they don't let it diminish. But I guarantee you, if we talk to any of them, there are things they do consistently that keep them focused and in the game. So what are some things we can do to stay in the game and keep the momentum? What are the habits that keep us in the game? Well, at 14 years old, one thing that stuck with me from Tony was that I didn't want to go home and have the law of diminishing intent kick in, right? I wanted to follow through on some of the things that I learned even at that seminar. And I remember seeing this audio program. It was called Personal Power. It was this long when I was 14 years old because it didn't come on CD. You couldn't download it from iTunes. It was on cassette. Some of you don't even know what a cassette is. They were these little tapes, right? You had to plug them in and, they could unravel and you could ruin them. But I wanted that set. And I remember going up to the sales table and being really disappointed at the fact that it was like $350, $400 at the time. But Tony had just said that we could influence any situation. So I asked the guys at the table what I could do to earn the right to buy one of those from them, like at cost. I had learned from my father, who was a business owner, that there was retail price for things and then there was cost. And I'll never forget the guy who was the head salesman at the time. His name was Randy Zales. He owned a franchise called Anthony Robbins and Associates. He was a promoter for Tony. Randy looked at me and he said, "Kid, I like your drive and I like your style. Here's the deal. If you help me sell 10 of these, I'll let you take one home." He said, "You've got to be out here during the break." And he gave me the time for 2 breaks. Came out to the sales table, helped them sell 10, and I was able to take it home. Now, why do I tell you that story? Because if you're committed, there's always a way. I could have walked away from that table defeated and said, "Hey, I don't have the $350. But if you're committed to your growth, there's always a way. And there's people around that are willing to help you if you show up genuinely and you show up ready to grow. So I took the audio home, and on day 1 of the audio program, Tony talked about habits. He talked about having excellent daily habits. He talked about putting aside what we call an hour of power. And he said, whether you have 15 minutes to fulfillment, 30 minutes to thrive, or an hour of power, it's so important to set aside, make a habit of setting aside time to intentionally start your day. Now, we live in a world where most of us wake up and the alarm clock that we use is on one of these. I'm sure if I asked for a show of hands, 90 to 100% of you would tell me your alarm clock is your cell phone. That alarm goes off, you roll over, you hit snooze once, you hit snooze twice, you hit snooze a third time, you hit snooze a fourth time, the second alarm goes off, you hit I'm kidding. Hopefully none of you have that habit. But then what happens? You immediately pop open Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, email, and before you're even out of bed, you're already sucked into the black hole of social media. And you can lay there for 5 or 10 minutes reading through messages, getting caught up because you've got FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. What happened during the 5 or 6 hours you were sleeping? Stop that. Stop that. It's a horrible habit. It distracts your mind from about choosing what you want to start your day with. If you open up those apps the second you wake up, you're at the effect of everybody else's emotions and what they're sharing. And it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but be intentional about what you want first, right? Stand guard at the gates of your mind. I learned that from Joseph McClendon. Stand guard at what's in between these ears. It's a tool. Don't let it use you, use it. How do you do that? Well, what would you do if you were going to program your mind to start the day strong? Some of us start our day by making sure that the first thing we do is hydrate, right? If you want your body to function in a strong place, if you want your mind to be sharp, you've got to feed it the things that it needs. So one of the things that it needs regularly is water. And I know this sounds so simple, but if you want to perform at your peak, if you want to remember to follow through, if you want your mind to be sharp, hydration is key. One of the things we teach on day 4 of UPW, one of the things that we remind people of at Life Mastery is that hydration is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. So if you've got some water in front of you, take a sip of water right now. Make sure you form a habit of putting things in your body that fuel your body. If you guys want to perform like a moped, that's great. Keep putting in garbage. Eat the candy bars, drink the soda, the Red Bulls, all the crazy, things that give you these highs and lows emotionally. If you want to perform like a rocket ship, give your body the simple things that it needs every day. One of the best habits you can form is to drink half your body weight in ounces of water daily, as a minimum. Half your body weight in ounces of water will keep you hydrated. And if you ever want to know whether you're hydrated or not, simple test. Take your knuckle and pinch it. If your skin starts to fall pretty quickly, you know that you're hydrated. If it stays up in a peak, right, like that, too long, you know that you're dehydrated. So make sure that you hydrate. That's one of the simple ways to do it. Why do we say that? Well, look, you guys have more in front of you today as youth than we ever had before, right? Whether it's social media or emails or keeping up with how they structure school and curriculum for you guys today. You guys take home 6 hours of homework. That's unreal. And yet most of you are achievers. You're following through. You're getting it done. But if you're going to continue to perform at that level, give your body the basics that it needs. Healthy food, and more importantly, make sure you stay hydrated. Now, once you get out of bed, if you can down a glass of water, keep a bottle of water next to your bed. I used to just put ice cubes in a glass, and by the time I wake up, they were melted and they were like the perfect temperature. It was like this perfect glass of water. It was nice and cool. But the next thing you want to do is sit up nice and tall and just take a deep breath in. Fill your body with the oxygen that it needs to begin to think. Right? You've gone 6, 7, 8 hours with no eating in a restful state because your body needs that rest. When you wake up, hydrate and take a nice deep breath in and oxygenate your body. Now, the hour of power that helps keep most people focused incorporates the entire triad. And if you guys remember, the triad are the 3 components that make up our emotional state. So you want to engage your physiology first. That's why we breathe. That's why we hydrate. The next thing you can do for your hour of power is to move your body. Now, one of the easiest things you can do that requires no extra equipment is to just go take a walk or go for a run. And it's a great way to start your morning with some cardiovascular activity. Get your heart pumping, get your body moving, right? Tony says that emotion comes from motion, or that motion creates emotion. So if you can just get outside, especially if we're sitting in buildings most of the day, and just take in nature for a little while, take in some fresh air and move your body, even if it's for 15 or 20 minutes, just a quick walk, and get your heart rate up, you'll see a radical difference in how you feel the rest of the day. I learned from chiropractors, doctors, healers, energy workers. They all agree on one thing, that if you walk for 30 minutes a day, you reduce the risk of every major disease, by 60% just by taking a 30-minute walk. What a great habit to start now. But while you're taking a walk, while maybe you're in your shower, if you're crunched on time, there are a couple things you can do to keep your mind focused on your best intentions and your outcomes. Number one is to start with gratitude. If you can wake up every day and just for a few minutes, put yourself in a state of gratitude. Start with yourself. What are you grateful for that you've done for yourself lately? Most of the time, it's so easy to start with things that are external. But the idea of personal power is that you also are grateful for the things that you've done for yourself, right? So are you grateful for the fact that you got a good night's rest? Are you grateful for the fact that you woke up and you're committed to starting your day? Are you grateful for following through on that classwork? Are you grateful for reaching out and encouraging a friend? Are you grateful for taking care of your body? What are you grateful for? Are you grateful that you showed up for GYLS not knowing what it was going to be like, or that you returned to GYLS and you committed to serving others, right? That's a moment in time that has such an emotional juice that even if you got grateful for it daily, it would take you back to that place. Imagine starting your day thinking about how you felt during the board break, or when we were out doing the goose chase and having a good time, spelling things out with bodies and enrolling strangers in photos and even the laughter that comes from that is a great way to just be grateful and start your day. Or, grateful for the team meetings, the time with home base at the end of the night where you got together with some youth leaders and some coaches and you talked about the distinctions and how life would be different by taking some of that stuff home. Remember some of those magic moments where you laughed or cried, and just be grateful for them for a few minutes and then start to spiral out. Who are you grateful for that's closest to you? Your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad, family members, friends. Maybe spiral out a little further. Teachers that you've had that have made an impact, or family members or mentors. Maybe you spiral out a little bit further and you think about Anand and how much he made us laugh and be okay with being a geek, right? Or Kathy Buckley and how she made us feel good about our insecurities and the things that maybe we used to beat ourselves up about, right? Maybe we're grateful that those people showed up to help from us, or Felix for giving all of his heart and his soul, and the youth leaders and the coaches, right? Maybe we continue to spiral out. Maybe we're thankful for Tony because he organized this and he had a huge heart in taking a big chunk of income and putting it into the foundation and creating an opportunity for us to really step up and create some change in the world. And maybe we continue to spiral out. Maybe we're grateful for Oprah for being a thought leader, or Ellen DeGeneres, or Nelson Mandela for what he left, or Gandhi, or Marianne Williamson, or maybe we're grateful for Dale Carnegie, and maybe we continue to spiral out. Maybe we're grateful for the planet, the stars in the sky that remind us that we're not alone and that there's all sorts of energy out there that can support us, and for creation, and that maybe there's a higher thought out there somewhere, whether you believe in energy or a higher thought or God. Maybe we're just grateful that we're taken care of and that when we sit down, we have blessings and clean water and variety of foods to eat, and that there's so much abundance. I mean, I'm sitting in an airport right now and there's palm trees in the middle of the airport. How crazy is that? There's palm trees in the building. There's this beautiful fountain. There's little kids running around trying to play in the water. You can be grateful for that moment, right? Think of things you're grateful for and expand. Now, we just took 2 to 3 minutes to be grateful. And I'm sure that as I was saying things, you were thinking about people, places, and things that you were grateful for. And if it feels even a little bit better, breathe it in and feel it. What a great 3-minute habit to start your day, right? What if you woke up, you just took a drink, breathed in, and you just got grateful for 3 or 4 minutes? What a difference that would make, right? That attitude of gratitude, especially if we tie it in with commitments and best intentions, puts us in a state where we can be resourceful. And if you wake up frustrated and you try and think your way through things you've committed to from a frustrated state, it's not going to work, right? So you want to put yourself in a state of gratitude where you're in a great state to tackle the day. Then, once you're in that state, maybe you start to think about your day. See it happening, right? Joseph McClendon calls it rehearsal, right? We rehearse before a play. We rehearse before we go out and speak. What if you just rehearsed your day for 3 minutes in your head, right? There's this funny thing that happens. I remember when my parents got this car. It was like an early minivan, and it looked like a spaceship. I remember that the commercials actually made it look like families got in the minivan and then launched into space. My parents went out and got this cool minivan. And I thought we were like the only people on the planet that had that minivan. But about a month into having that minivan and getting in and out of it regularly and seeing it every day, I started seeing a lot more of those minivans on the road. As a matter of fact, every time we stopped at a red light, there was like 2 or 3 of those minivans on the road next to us. There'd be one across the way and 2 on the other sides, and I'd be in an intersection. I'd go, wow, man, we must be really popular people because we got this minivan and now everybody else is buying them. Well, I learned later that those minivans were probably already there, that my mind started to see those minivans because I had one of those minivans in front of me regularly. Right? It's called your reticular activating system. What you put in front of your mind regularly, it will see more of. Right? So another great habit is to train that reticular activating system to see the things that you want in life. How do you do that? Visualize them. The mind doesn't know the difference between visualization and reality. Right? That's why when we fall in a dream, right, we're in a sleep, and then somebody go, huh! We wake up. Why? Because the mind doesn't know the difference between if you're falling really or if you're falling in a dream. In the 90s, the Olympics happened in Atlanta, Georgia, and they did a study on the athletes there. They hooked up all the U.S. Racing team to all these measurement tools, and they had them run their race in their mind. And all of the muscles in their body fired off as if they were actually running the race. That tells us again that our mind doesn't know the difference between visualization and reality because they were only visualizing the race, but their body started creating micro movements as if they were running. So if you want your day to go well, if you want to show up to school and have a great day, if you want to show up to college and have a great day, if you want to show up to work and have a great day, are you visualizing that day happening the way you want it and giving your mind the programming to look for the things that can make your day great? Look for ways to make those commitments happen. Do you visualize the big commitments as real? I'm sure that Juan visualized his book launch. I'm sure that he visualized that thing happening. And over time it happened. I'm sure that Rachel visualized having this company where she can inspire young ladies. I know that this stuff works. Years and years ago, I sold my comic book store business, and I sold my mortgage company, and I decided to become a coach. I was inspired by what was happening in the environment, and I talked to some of the coaches, and I wanted to be an Anthony Robbins coach. Now, I do my own coaching, but I really wanted to be a coach for Tony. So I hung this Tony Robbins coaching picture on my door in front of my desk every single day. And I knew it was going to be hard to get in. It's not easy to become a Robbins coach, but I made it. And then I visualized speaking on stage at Robbins, and I visualized becoming a trainer. And, I'm proud of the fact that I was the youngest coach ever hired at the Anthony Robbins companies. And I'm the youngest trainer still. Maybe. Scott Harris's wife might be younger than me. I got to check on that. I used to be the youngest trainer. And I was proud of that, but I know that I made it happen because I was grateful for everything that was happening around me, and then I visualized what I wanted. Right? So if you can get in gratitude and then visualize your day going and really emotionally associate with it, feel it in your body, see it happening, celebrate the victories for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes a day, you'll see a total difference in your follow through, and it will help you stay in the game, right? Peak performance athletes, practice. My guess is some of you are athletes, some of you play instruments, some of you are great with technology, some of you are great with art regularly, and that's why you're great. But if you want to be great at thinking strategically, if you want to be great at the mental follow through, if you want to be great at just being happy every day, you got to practice it. You got to practice it. And that practice happens by you taking just a few minutes a day, right? So if you did water, a couple deep breaths, 3 minutes of gratitude, and 3 minutes of visualization, we're maybe at 8 or 9 minutes. If you're telling me that you don't have 8 or 9 minutes to just do those few things, you and I got to have a one-on-one conversation about what's going on in your life. Because if you don't have 8 or 9 minutes, we got to talk about how you're managing your time and your energy. I know we all have 8 or 9 minutes. Most of us get sucked away for hours on Facebook, Snapchat, text messages, all that goofiness. I know you've got 8 or 9 minutes to give to yourself. And that's a huge gift. You know, the final thing is if you can do that while you're out moving, while you're out or taking a walk, also incorporating those things is huge. I can't tell you how powerful incantations are. They're one of the best habits you can get yourself into. You know, your computer, your cell phone, your tablets, they have updates in the background regularly that keep the programming up to date so that your computer, your cell phone, it works seamlessly. How often are you updating the programming in here? Are you still running Lion when you should be running El Capitan? Are you still running iOS 2 when you should be running, you know, the new iOS? You've got to keep your stuff upgraded mentally as well. To do that, I'm telling you, the easiest habit you can form is regular incantations. You learned a powerful incantation at GYLS, right? And at UPW. Now I am the voice. But think to yourself, the voice of what? The voice of strength, the voice of happiness, the voice of joy. Customize that incantation so it's real for you. Right now, I am the voice that's going to bring powerful conversation into my day every day. Now, I'm the voice of reason for myself and my family. I'm the voice of happiness for me and my friends. I'm the voice of joy or empowerment or laughter or positivity. What voice will you choose? And then incant it regularly. I will lead, not follow. Lead yourself where? Where are you going? Purposeful with the incantation. Choose where you want to go that day and use it. What will you believe today? I'll believe that I can pass this test. I'll believe that I can show up and stay energized through the entire class, taking great notes. I believe that I can sit down today and finally write my book. Finally do that video that I promised my friends. Finally put myself out there because I have something great to say and people want to hear about it. Right? What do you want to lead? What do you believe? What do you want to create today? You're a force for good, for who or for what? Right? Use that as an incantation, but contextualize it so it's real for you. And if you do that while you're moving and breathing in a powerful state, you won't just do it intellectually. You'll start to feel it emotionally and you'll get it in your body physically, right? If any of you saw Tony the other day, there's a video circling right now on Facebook. He was on the Good Morning America to talk about his book, you know, that he re-released the book in paperback and he added some new content, but then he did some work with the audience on that video. Hopefully you guys can find it on social media. And he got them standing and breathing and just feeling a little bit different. He reminded us and everybody that the foundation of his work is that physiology can help us wire in a powerful psychology quickly. That if we just try and think our way through it, maybe we'll get a little bit out of it. But if you use your physiology, you start to rewire your body with these positive thoughts, these incantations, rehearsing our day, getting in gratitude. Those are the habits that make the difference and that keep us in the game that we've committed to. All right, so even if you just did that, your hour of power, You stay hydrated. You make sure to oxygenate your body. You get in gratitude. You rehearse your day with visualization and use some powerful language, some incantations to keep your mind programmed. You're going to see a total difference in how you show up. You'll be able to keep those commitments that you made at GYLS. You'll be able to show up strong consistently as that leader that you committed to being. And you'll be able to continue to come back with our family to not only grow in your transformation, but to transform the people that show up as ambassadors year over year. More importantly, if you show up that way consistently in life, you'll transform your brothers, your sisters, your family, your classmates, your coworkers, your communities. And then you won't be a follower. You'll be standing shoulder to shoulder with all of us as leaders creating the change that we all committed to really creating. So hopefully this was valuable. I know it wasn't earth-shattering. There's no secret sauce to it. It's the simple things done consistently, right? Excellence then is not one act. It's a habit. We are what we repeatedly do. What are you repeatedly doing to keep your commitments and show up as your best self, your highest self? Ask yourself that question, and if there's not much coming up as an answer, commit to doing the hour of power for the next 10 days. If your parents have Ultimate Edge, if you go to the inner balance section of Ultimate Edge, day 2 in the inner balance section of Ultimate Edge, Tony talks about daily habits. There's a CD called Your Hour of Power, and then there's a CD called Daily Magic. And it's literally Tony walking you through this whole process of moving, breathing, getting in gratitude, visualizing your day, and doing some incantations. I'm sure we can find a link that we can post with those audios so that everybody that was on the call today has them. I'm positive we'll find a link to make sure you all have it. I encourage you to put it in your phones, work out with it, use it. I've been using Daily Magic for 15 years. I still use it 2 or 3 times a week to guide me to stay in this best practice. So hopefully you guys got some value. I want to see if there's any questions. And if there's any questions, Sergio, we can bounce them back and forth.
Mike, I just want to say that was outstanding. That was unbelievable. And like you said, it wasn't anything earth-shattering. It's all kind of common sense, but it's the doing, it's execution, right? Knowledge is only potential power. We all know that, but it's the execution that makes it happen. Pepper's posted a whole bunch of things, just comments, no questions, but just repeating.
Love my sister Pepper.
Yeah, one of them is, I'm grateful for you, my brother. So any of you guys, if you have questions, you all already know. In the Momentum Session Facebook group pinned to the top, you can comment under there.
Yes.
So I've got a question for you to start. You said you've been doing it for 15 years. Has your routine changed at all? How has it evolved from when you first started it to where it is now?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you, it's gotten more complicated, but in a good way. I rebound in the mornings. You know, one of the things that Tony talks about at Life Mastery, he talks about this at UPW, is rebounding. Rebounding is a great way to cycle your lymphatic system, right? To get rid of all the garbage and toxins that are in the body. Now, that's done through movement. And the truth is, most of us sit like this most of the day. We don't move like we were originally built and designed. Rebounding, up and down movement consistently, 10 to 15 minutes a day, totally cycles your lymphatic system and gets rid of all those toxins that make us, you know, lethargic and tired. So I rebound, and while I'm rebounding, I play event music, right? So all the songs that we love from the events. And I do my incantations while that music is blasting on my rebounder, and in front of me, I have my vision board rotating. I have it digitally. So all of these images that I've taken from Google Images and from the internet of, you know, beaches and me with my daughter and my wife and you know, facilitating and taking care of my family and all the stuff that I want to create in my life, I have that rotating regularly in front of me so that I'm physically engaged. I've got event music, which are great anchors to a powerful state. I'm doing incantations and visualization, and I use it as my warm-up. So I do that for 15 minutes warming up. Then I'm out the door for a run, 3 to 5 miles. During that time, I'm seeing my day. I'm picturing my clients. I'm seeing their successes and I'm celebrating on their calls. You know, I'm picturing anything else. I'm shaking hands, high-fiving, celebrating, and I make sure to celebrate it before it's happened. That's probably 3 days a week. And then there's days where I go completely the other route, where I'm very quiet and meditative, because I believe that those quiet moments are just as healthy as those crazy loud moments, and that we've got to give our mind time to think and slow down a little bit to process. So I've adopted Tony's priming technique, which he's done at UPW and Date with Destiny over the last year and a half, which is, breathing. And there's some breathing exercises where you do breath of fire, and you go for about 30 seconds, moving your arms up and down powerfully, breathing in and out through your nose. And then you take 30 seconds and you get in gratitude from a very quiet place. And you do that 2 or 3 times, and then you see your day as if everything that you want to have happen that day is guided. Not that you're having to force to get it done, but that there's something that's, I believe in God. So for me, it's that God is guiding my day, and I make it a prayerful moment, right? My commitments every day aren't just made out loud, they're made to God, because I believe that if I can make a commitment to a higher power, I have to follow through on it. So it's added leverage. And but some of those practices, the quiet moments as well as the crazy moments, there's a mixture of those, but there's always an hour of power. If I'm at an event like I am today, I'm here at one of Steve Linder's events, learning some NLP stuff and helping and doing some teaching here. And maybe I only have 15 minutes. Well, I do it in the shower. Right? At Date with Destiny, we're full on 20 hours a day. I don't have an extra hour. So the 15 or 5 minutes that I take to shower, I still make sure to do gratitude and visualize my day to make sure that it happens. So hopefully that helped.
That's perfect. And we've got 2 more questions lined up. One from Pepper, which came in first, and then another one from Huang, actually. So Pepper's, let me just find it really quick. When a person's in winter, how do you get moving again? And then she just posted another one. Maybe you could tie it together. What would you say to someone that's made a significant progress but has allowed life to negatively impact?
2 very real circumstances, right? We all go through winter, right? But what we have to remember is that after winter, there's always spring, right? Sometimes we need a winter. Winter helps us appreciate the good times, right? So, and most of our personal growth happens when we have resistance, right? When we have to face a problem. So there's times, first of all, that we have to look at, it's like, what's the meaning we give winter? What's the meaning that we give being in a tough circumstance? Right? If we can give it an empowering meaning, get ourselves in what Tony calls a beautiful state, and look at it and say, you know what, great. This is tough, but when I make it through this to spring, who will I be? Right? It's important to create an empowering meaning even in tough situations first. Then there's things you do in winter, right? Like, you think of a bear. A bear stores up food to hibernate in the winter, right? Sometimes winter is a signal that we need to slow down for a minute. But a bear stores that food so that he has resources. What we always have to remember is that if we get resourceful in winter, there are resources all around us. One of the best things you can do is call on somebody else to be your coach, right? Call somebody that you know is in a great state, that has a skill set or a way of reasoning or a conversational ability to ask you the hard questions to pull you out of that state. Right? I believe in coaching because I'm a coach. So, right, I'll put a shameless plug in that you should call a coach. And within this peer group, you have youth leaders, youth coaches, trainers, team leaders that are all available. Pepper and I have called each other at times. Pepper and I have deep roots together, both from Robbins and also spiritually. We connect with some values that are pretty tight, that hold us to a high standard. There's times where I've had a rough day and I got to go see Pepper. There's times where Pepper's had a rough day and she gives me a call, but we lean on each other. Never think that you have to be strong yourself through a winter. The best thing you can do is access an empowering peer group, right? In Tony's 7 master steps, the way you sustain leadership is by surrounding yourself with an empowering peer group, an empowering environment. Utilize it. Don't just be in it, access it. Now, that was the first part, which is pulling yourself out of financial winter. The second part was, what was the other part of the question? Because I think I answered part of it. But
Yeah, let me get it really quick. Sorry, 1 second. We're getting a bunch of questions in. I'm trying to line them all up in order. What would you say to someone that has made significant progress but has allowed life to negatively impact?
again, it's about meaning there a little bit, which is life will always hit you. I'll tell you that a couple of years ago, I hired a personal trainer. He's actually Tony's personal trainer. His name's Billy Beck. And Billy got me in the best shape of my life. I mean, in 90 days, I lost like 13% body fat, gained like 8% lean muscle mass, ripped. And then I had a surgery. And then I busted my knee. And I gained like 30 pounds, right? Life happened. And yeah, it was tough for a little while. And then I remembered, wow, if I did it before, I can do it again. And it's funny, when my knee got hurt, I thought for a minute, and I was ignoring some responsibilities. And I was put down on my knees. And I thought, you know, sometimes we're humbled, we're put on our knees when we have to remember the more important things. So I created a meaning around falling and hurting my knee that was, hey, maybe God was giving me a reminder that I was leaning too much on myself, not enough on him. And then I needed to be put down on my knees and humbled a little bit. You find a meaning that works, right? Because life is going to happen. We're going to get hit. Here's what happens. We're on a high, life hits us, we get knocked down. We start to grow again, life hits us, we get knocked down. But every time we get back up, we're building muscle. And eventually we get hit, but our legs have gotten stronger because we've done all those squats, getting back up and down. So that hit doesn't take us down, it just wobbles us. We get a little stronger because now those muscles to keep us stable grow. And now the hits keep coming and we get stronger and stronger because we build resilience. Welcome problems into your life. Look at them head on. The people who grow are the people who look at problems and say, yes, I've got this. They're going to happen. It's the meaning we create around it that's ultimately going to make the difference. You said Juan had a question.
That was an amazing answer. Yes, Huang has kind of two-part question. What do you focus more on? Your long-term goals, 2 to 5 to 10 years, or short-term goals, 1 month to 6 months to a year? How often do you reevaluate them, and how often do you look at them or work on them?
Excellent question. I will tell you that I am 100% an adopter of the rapid planning method. And again, shameless plug for one of Tony's products, but RPM is brilliant because it has you look at your life vision. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be in 20 years? But those are paragraphs. Those are brief statements. It's just like giving yourself a direction. You're on the East Coast. You want to head to California. Now you know where you're going. Then I define, where do I want to be in 3 years and 5 years? Lightly. None of it's detailed. The detailed planning happens annually. Where do I want to be by the end of this year as it relates to each of my outcomes in life in the different categories of my life? Where do I want to be this year with my body? Where do I want to be this year in business? Where do I want to be this year, with my relationship? Not only with my wife, with my daughter. Where do I want to be this year as a trainer? Where do I want to be this year as a coach? Right? You got to break it all down. Have a vision, what the goal is for the end of the year. What are you celebrating on December 31st, right? Write that down clearly. And then with each category, I set my outcomes and then break the category down from annual goals into quarterly goals. I only detail plan the quarter that I'm in. So even my annual goals are just the vision. My quarterly that's going to get there is detailed. So let's say I wanted to lose, 40 pounds in a year. Not that I have 40 pounds to lose anymore, but let's say that was the goal. I want to lose 40 pounds by the end of the year. Healthfully and sustainably, I want to shed 40 pounds, gain 40 pounds of lightness, right, and feel great and energized. Now, I might want to lose 30 pounds in 90 days, and then the next 10 pounds gradually lose over time. So I'm going to look at my 90-day plan, that quarter that's coming up, and I'm going to break it down to 10 pounds per month. Now, losing is a lot easier than losing 30. And I say, all right, well, it's 2.5 pounds a week. That's not bad. That's less than a pound a day. Can I lose 3/4 of a pound today? Sure. If I eat clean, hydrate, and take a walk for 30 minutes, I'm going to lose 3/4 of a pound. Now that seems much more manageable than trying to think of 30 pounds or 40 pounds. So what we do is we chunk our goals down. Now, once I have all that done with each category, I'll tell you this, I look at my goals daily. I use a planner. I still use a paper planner. Even though the engagement and scheduling happens digitally, I still write everything down on paper. I feel that there's a connection, like a kinesthetic feeling with my body when I write stuff down. And in my journal, I have my I am statements. Who do I need to show up as that day? What am I grateful for the day? What do I have planned out? I can look at my quarterly goals. I can look at my annual goals. I can look at my big picture vision. All of that's broken down. I reevaluate realistically, like heavy reevaluations quarterly. Because what happens is at the end of the quarter, I look at every category and I say, where am I? Did I accelerate or am I behind? That tells me how to pace and detail schedule the next 90 days. Here's the problem with detailed annual planning. If you start in January, by the time you get to March, most of your plans have readjusted. And if you spent 3 days detail planning the year out, you're going to have to rework all of it by the time you get to March anyways. So if you know where you're going, you got a clear picture of benchmarks, so like road signs along the way. But create the detailed map quarterly and then every quarter re-engage. The more you re-engage with your goals, the more likely they are to happen. I'll tell you with RPM planning, 85-90% of what you write down to accomplish will happen if you engage in the regular best practices of RPM. My guess is we could probably do some RPM calls. Just a side note. Hopefully that answered your question, Juan.
Awesome. We've got one from Ireland Quinn. How do you get
Quinn, what's up?
How do you get back up when you fall down in life? I was working so hard on some of my goals and then I got really sick and had surgery and now I feel like I took 10 steps back. How do I get back up to that level where I was?
So you're assuming that the level went away instead of just maybe taking on the meaning that you had to hit pause. Life happens. Look, I just went through some surgeries. I got some more coming. And sometimes that means that things get delayed, but life's delays are not life's denials. Remember that. One of the earliest things I learned from Tony, and it's so impactful, is that most of us overestimate what we can accomplish in a day, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. I just turned 37 last month, and I was thinking about where I was when I was 27. At 27, I was selling off a couple companies. I was a coach at the time, but I was like a little fledgling coach. I was a new coach, and I was still a senior leader running around in a blue shirt at the events, hoping to become a trainer. That was the year that all of that happened for me. But I think back to that moment, and a decade later, I have my own company where I train and certify coaches. I have a beautiful family. I have multiple businesses that run themselves, and I get to go to Fiji 3 months out of the year and teach life and wealth mastery for Tony. And that all happened in less than 10 years. Happened in about 8 years. That's a short period of time when you think that we're all going to live 120 years. And a whole bunch of stuff happened in that time frame that made me think that it was never going to happen, that it was never going to get there, that it was going to get taken away, or that things weren't going to work out. But when something didn't work out, something better always came. When something fell through, something better showed up because my mind was focused on still making it happen. Life will happen, but it's just a delay. Sometimes we need those days. We need the learnings from, or because of those delays, something better happens. You think about this. say you're at an airport and your flight is delayed, and then you miss your flight, and they find out because of that delay that there was something wrong with the engine, and that if you had gotten on that plane, it would have crashed. You're thankful for those delays. But sometimes we create a negative meaning to other delays, right? It's all the meaning you give it. So I know, look, it's tough, especially when there's momentum. But if you just get back up and keep moving forward, remember, progress is everything. Because here's what happens. Whatever you think is delayed, you're going to get there. You're going to finish it. And then you know what you're going to do? You're going to set another goal. You're going to set another goal, and you're going to push towards something else. So know that as long as you continue to create progress. And right, if you're laid up after a surgery, how do you make progress? You feed your mind. You study. You read. You create content. You call on friends. You leverage. You partner with other people. You continue to move the ball forward. I'll use an American football analogy. It might not be a touchdown, but maybe you just get a first down, or you move a little bit further down the field. You know, they got rugby in Ireland, so maybe it's not a try, but you've got a little bit further down the field, right? And maybe the scrum was horrible and the ball went to their team, but you'll get it back. You'll get another try. You just got to keep moving forward. Progress is everything to get down the field.
Awesome.
It all boils down to meaning. Most of the answers are going to come down to the meaning you give it when you look at the tough stuff. I'm just letting you know.
So I'm not sure how much more time you have, but we have a bunch more questions. So just to gauge that.
Keep coming. I got a couple more minutes. We can keep going. I'm having fun.
So we've got a question from Nate. He's in Australia. It's 2 a.m. for him, and he's up. He's made coming to these.
Oh my God.
I know, it's great.
That's a commitment.
Yeah, buddy. So Nate asks, what do you think are the best strategies for building resilience? And if you could share a few minutes of advice with your 16-year-old self, what would you share?
Oh. Not only is he a beast waking up, he's got quality questions. I love it. Listen, you know, resilience, the only way is to embrace problems. You know, if you think about world leaders, we look at them as leaders because they went after problems and solved them. Right? The great people in life are the people who faced insurmountable problems, and some of them even failed. But we respect them because they faced them. And you build resilience by facing problems. You can't avoid them. You got to seek them. I'll never forget, we were at Business Mastery with Tony, and he talked about business owners who avoid problems. And he said, listen, if you're going to be successful in business, you have to want problems. You know, the little problems, you know, they're the annoying things that we got to go after, but we got to go after them because by solving the little things, we start to fine-tune the business. He said, but then there's the big, nasty, hairy, pathological problems. He said, you got to learn to eat those things for breakfast. Your cereal bowl in the morning needs to be filled with problems. Pour that almond milk in and go after it. Start eating them up because you get stronger by it. You have to find new solutions. You got to find a way. You build muscle that way, right? And the only way you build resilience is by being knocked down. And the truth is, you won't see some of the problems coming. They're only going to be there when they're there. What's the meaning you're going to create out of it? That life is falling apart, that the world is ending, or that you're ready? That you're strong enough to face them? That you've got enough friends that even if you're not strong enough, they're going to hold you up and you're going to go after it together? Right? You've got to believe that you're always bigger than the problems that you're facing. And if you think you have problems, I invite you to go visit a third world country and spend a week there with people in villages and in situations where their struggle is to find water for the day or to avoid bullets on their way to school. If we're on this call, I'm going to tell everybody that's listening, we have no problems. We have challenges and issues. We don't have real problems. And that's not to diminish anything anybody's going through. I want to be honest about that. But sometimes when we look around, we make our problems bigger than they really need to be. And then we choose to suffer in them rather than choose to grow in them. And that's a choice. So resilience is built by facing those problems and challenges. There's no easy way around it. But who you become by facing it, you'll be proud of. You'll be proud of if you continue to do it. 9-year-old self. What advice would I give my 16-year-old self? Drive slower. Because I had a lot of tickets when I was 16. Drive slower. I would say this. Read more. And that's not that I didn't read, but I would tell my 16-year-old self to read more. And I would tell my 16-year-old self to change nothing else.
Awesome.
I wouldn't be who I am today. And I'm so happy with my life right now. I wouldn't change a thing. I'm going to get you next time I see you at GYLS for making me cry, young man. All right. Now, I had a blessed 16-year-old life. And I'm going to tell you in full transparency, it was the hardest year of my life. I moved out at the end of my 16-year-old year because of family challenges. And I have an amazing relationship with my family today, just so you know. My mom and dad, we all get along great. But at that time in my life, I was dealing with heavy emotional challenges in my family, along with physical challenges, because I had an adult in my life that was battling alcoholism and wasn't handling it well. But I wouldn't have come to the challenges I faced as an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old if I hadn't gone through all those things. So it sort of answers your other question, which is the resilience that I built as a 16-year-old has carried me through some of the most challenging times I've ever faced, even in my 20s and 30s. I wouldn't change a thing. I would just remind my 16-year-old self that everything that I needed is within me. I would just tell him what he already knew, that all you need is within you now. Everything you need to conquer the craziest things in life you have within you if you choose to access it. That's what I would tell my 16-year-old self. And then I'd walk away and not meddle because I'm happy with who I became. Okay.
Powerful.
Sorry about that.
That was powerful. All right. I'll have one final question because I know you're at the Steve Linder thing.
Yeah.
You've got things to
About
do.
5
And
minutes.
This is a long question, so it'll take me 5 minutes to read this. It's from Nick Marino.
Of course it's for Mr. Marino.
It's
Hopefully the acting is going well, Mr. Marino. All right, what's up?
So you mentioned your higher purpose. For some people, they know their purpose and they have a burning desire to achieve what they want. And there are also some people who don't really know what their higher purpose is, or they have a higher purpose and they're convinced is that when deep down it's incongruent. How can you get in touch with your higher purpose? How do you discover what you want in life, what you're capable of, and what you're here to do? And how do you know when it is your higher purpose? Higher purpose, higher purpose.
Lightning bolts will shine down from the heavens and strike you. No, I'm kidding. But that's what we're all looking for. Most of the time, we're looking for that lightning bolt moment where, like, the earth opens up and rainbows and butterflies come flying out and unicorns fly by, crapping rainbows and Skittles, and it spells out our life purpose, and that doesn't happen. Intuition plays a part in it. I think you got to listen to your body, and you got to quiet your mind, which means turn off the laptop and the cell phone and just go sit and listen for a minute. And you got to ask yourself, what am I here for? What do I know is true? I'll tell you, my short answer is Date with Destiny will give you 95% of that clarity. It really will. Because you look at your values, and if they're not working for you, you just redesign them. And look at that, I'm hitting my hat off. The truth is, you get to design it. You get to decide what it is. It's a decision. I see people, though, that they tend to overcomplicate it, right? Like, my life purpose is to conquer this, to do that, and all of a sudden there's a book. And if you look at powerful purposes, they're really simple. And they don't have anything to do with a business or a widget or a gadget. Most of the time, people with powerful purposes, it's about how they impact others, or the impact that they want to leave. You know, you think about Tony's life purpose. His purpose is to transform lives. Now, he can transform lives by just sharing something nice while he's standing around in an elevator, or he can stand in front of 10,000 people. You really got to think about what makes you happy. You know, I know, Nick, I know some things that make you happy because we've talked about it. If your purpose is to inspire others, to make them laugh, to entertain, and the vehicle that you're choosing right now is acting, great. Sometimes we confuse the vehicle with the purpose, right? But maybe your vehicle for entertaining and making people laugh is comedy, or maybe it's speaking, or maybe it's writing. I have a friend who wants to be an editor. He wants to be a movie editor. He doesn't want to be on screen. He doesn't want to be in film, even though he's a good actor. He wants to edit. And he really believes that his life's purpose is to tell amazing stories. And he believes that the most powerful place to put a good story together is in the editing. And we've all heard that movies are made in the editing room, right? But he's really looked at how storytelling has evolved, and he knows that film is where it is. But he believes his life's purpose is to tell good stories. The first thing I'm like sitting around a campfire telling stories, or somebody writing a book. No, the vehicle he's choosing to live that purpose is editing movies. Don't confuse your vehicle with your purpose. Right? And there's a lot of great exercises out there, books that walk you through finding your life's purpose. Most of them, I think, have good exercises in them. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them out there. There's even journals that take you through it, right? But you may be overthinking it and overcomplicating it. Like, if you listen to your body, you quiet your mind, and you ask the right questions, right? You know, what is my purpose? What's my truth? Why am I here? What makes me happy? Each of those things are going to give you a dot, right? Each of those answers gives you a dot. But if you start connecting those dots, it'll help you figure out what your life purpose is. I'll tell you, if you can't get to Date with Destiny, because it really does align 95% of that, all the processes that Tony takes you through those 6 days, they help you look at what your purpose is and your mission statement, and align your values and your goals so that it all comes together in one piece. And it's worth the investment. I believe everybody should go to Date with Destiny. So get yourself there. And if not, work on it with a coach. Coaches have skill sets, questions to help you get that clarity. So there you go. There was another long-winded answer in a commercial for doing the work. And if I've plugged products and events and things, guys, I can't tell you that part of staying in the gym, right, keeping the momentum, staying in the game, is to continue to do personal development, right? All of you guys are going to continue to do events and go to events. I was so proud to see a huge group of you go to Brendan Bouchard's event. I was so proud to see you guys there. And you guys were tackling some of the best of the best in teaching vocals. You know, some of you ganged up on Roger Love in like a hotel lobby. And I was like, you're so hungry. You're out there learning. You got to keep doing it. I'm so proud of, there's 30 Robbins coaches who have been trained by Tony, trained by me, trained by, you know, Brenda Schinke and Jane Jewell, some of the best coaches in the industry. And they're here. Now they're learning from Steve Linder. The training never ends. It becomes a habit. So if I leave you with anything, it's on top of your daily habits, Make it a habit to consistently budget and invest in personal development so you can continue to grow. Hopefully that wasn't a blatant commercial, but you know, I mean, I believe we do.
No, that was perfect. That was outstanding, and I don't think we have any more questions. So,
Cool.
want to just give us a final thought and send us home?
Absolutely. You know, Felix and Scott and Carolyn and you know, Chuck, all the trainers, Pepper, so she's on the call here with me, Mayhole, you know, we love GYLS. When we say it's our favorite event, by far our favorite event, highlight of the year. And it's not because of what we get to do, it's because of what we get to see. And we love seeing the ambassadors come and transform and open up. But our true joy is watching the growth of the folks that come back year after year. To see, you know, people that started as ambassadors and then came as coaches and then became youth leaders, stepping in and being team leaders for the first time is huge. Our goal is that eventually the youth leaders that have grown from this, you replace us, that we're no longer needed, that if we come, we're just flies on the wall enjoying watching, that this becomes yours. So I beg you to come back. I beg you to stay in the environment, to continue to help us grow leaders and to give back and to stay engaged. This is an amazing place to come and find people that are committed to living life at the highest level, but to have that connection from your teen years and to maintain that through your young adult life and as you become older and older into your, there's very few people on the planet that have friendships and connections like that. It's such a rare thing. So don't take it lightly. This is one of the groups on the planet. And I don't know if you guys understand the value of having it at such a young age. So I implore you, stay engaged, continue to come back, continue to party with us and hang out with us and grow some really cool young, I'm going to say it, badass youth out there. And you know, anytime you guys need anything, I'm here. You can reach out. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of all the leadership team that we're always here for you guys. So thank you guys for being on board today. I don't take your time lightly. Thank you for being here. And I look forward to speaking with you guys again.